I'm doing great, Vicious. How are you, my friend? Ha ha ha! Get smacked. I watched a little bit of that game, man. It just seemed like um, I don't know if it was Jalen Hurts' fault or if it was the head coach's fault, but just like they were trying to put too much weight on Jalen Hurts because it's like 3rd and 6 or something, and he tried a QB sneak, and it didn't work out for them. And then they didn't get very far from that, and then they tried another like pass play, but Jalen Hurts ended up just running the ball and getting nowhere with it. So it was weird, man. It was a weird game to watch. They were kind of off sync this game, but also like to give credit to the Jets defense for putting pressure on Jalen Hurts and their secondary, holding up and doing well against those star receivers. AJ Brown obviously was shredding. There's unless it's Jalen Ramsey, there's really no way you're stopping AJ Brown, man. That dude is a tank, which is crazy. Literally. Steak. Mm-mm. I always like to go from steak or tough. Either I was like, um, so it's got to be like blank EAK blank. The word definitely doesn't end in a K. Keto is I think KETO. It can't be freak. I feel like there's an L in this word, vicious. Could we try slick just to see if there is an L in this word? Oh, I like that. Leaky. Dude, we are crushing it. Like we should go into a championship or something. Pro Wordle players, man. Let's go. Again, wow. Let's go with your boy, AJ Brown. Oh, Brees. Could try Anthony Richardson too, depending on that height. Oh, kill. Oh, oh no. Oh no. That's a clean jersey though. It's a nice, yeah, it's a nice jersey. No, Vicious, I'm not good at the divisions. What are the AFC teams? Hold on, let me look up the divisional teams real quick, cause or you said you want to go AFC first, right? Okay, found it. So I think if we're talking about the whole AFC, I think the Broncos are where they're gonna be at. With a 1-5 record. I don't really expect anything out of them this season, especially after they got blown out by the fucking Dolphins. They're gonna be there. They're gonna be there. They need to do a whole rebuild, in my personal opinion. I think, um, kind of like what the Falcons are doing with Brian Robinson and what's his name, Kyle London, I think, right? Yeah, those two are. Yeah, I think those two. It's a part of the Falcons' rebuilding process. So I think that's good on them, and I think the Broncos need to take some time and do the same kind of thing. Um, obviously the Chiefs, 5-1. My Ravens, 4-2. One that is surprising to me is the Dolphins being 5-1. You kind of they're kind of like a sleeper team, and a lot of people were kind of skeptical, including me, about Tua. but Tua's been showing up and going ham recently, so I'm actually genuinely proud of them. I think they're doing pretty good. What about you, Viciosus? What are some teams that stand out to you? Yeah, they're doing good. I mean, even the Jaguars are going positive. They're 4-2. That's another team that you don't really see doing well quite often. They made it to the playoffs a couple of years ago, so I'm kind of hoping Trevor Lawrence can take them there again. It's always fun to see a team, that you don't see every single year make it to the playoffs, especially a sleeper team like the Jags. So I think that's really cool. I agree, man. I want to also see the Jets make it. I know they're even right now in their record, but uh, like I've said multiple times on this podcast, the Jets were my original favorite team, and they've been really bad for a very long time. So I would love to see them get at least into the playoffs, maybe. I'm gonna have to go with the Lions, man. The Lions are 5-1 right now. That's a solid ass record, if you ask me, boy. What? They're tied up there with the Eagles. I who's even the quarterback for the Lions right now? Jared Goff. Wow. And Amari St. Brown has been going off recently. I watched one Lions game because I forgot who they were going against, but he had like 6 or 7 catches just in the first half. I'm like, damn, Buddy might end up catching like 14 passes or something like that just in one game. So I think that Jared Goff is doing good. And what's his name? Anthony Hutchinson or Adrian Hutchinson, their outside linebacker. He's been doing a very good job on defense. Especially when you watch what he does on the field. He can read the defense very, very well. And I always say this, and a lot of people are going to criticize me for it, as I always say. I preface it this all the time, but in the Madden ratings, he's never really been that high up. But this year, he's like a 93 or a 94, and I think he deserves that rating, especially when you watch him play and the things he can do on defense and the way he's able to read the offense is it's just it's like poetry to me. A good defensive player is like conducting like an orchestra. So for me, I think the Lions are my surprise team that's doing good. And the team that is doing very, very bad that surprises me personally, kind of looking through, and I think that all these teams are kind of, in my personal opinion, what I expected. I'm surprised by the Commanders being tied. They're 3-3, so that's pretty surprising to me. What about you, Viciosus? What's a team that surprised you that they're doing good, and what's a team that you're surprised is doing bad? Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean the Bucks. Everybody always says Tom Brady makes a team, but I feel like when you really think about it, yes, Tom Brady was an amazing player, and I give him his flowers. But think about it, a great quarterback also makes a team, but leaves an impression. And with Baker Mayfield, I don't know if Tom Brady did any work with Baker Mayfield before, but Baker Mayfield was pretty consistent on the Browns. He had a couple of bad seasons, but he also had some very stellar seasons. So um, I can agree with you on that. Another thing that the Panthers 0-6, and the Cardinals 1-5. Vicious. What's one thing or a couple of things that you could say or recommend to these teams? What do you think they need to do to better themselves, maybe later on in the season or by next year?
You kind of talking the bottom teams. You just kind of talking the league as a whole.
No, just those two teams, like Panthers and Cardinals. Because looking through the, I mean, in the Bears and the Giants, but Well, okay, so yeah, what's a couple of things you could suggest to these teams that are at the bottom?
You know, the Panthers. I know they're kind of in a rebuild. They got new coach. They got a young quarterback. Just taking some time. Letting those quarterbacks do. You kind of it's definitely a bigger thing, a jump going from the college to NFL. So Panthers. I haven't really watched a whole lot of Panthers games this year so far, but just kind of keep improving. They got a kind of a new core, so getting some receivers in there. They kind of traded away, trying to rebuild, get some. They traded DJ Moore away. They got Bryce Young. They got Miles Sanders from the Eagles. And then just trying to improve that defense. Cardinals, it's a new coach again. Take some time to kind of build your system up, build what you want. I think again the Cardinals kind of just gotta, you know, I think they need to move on from Kyle Murray. I know kind of been more Dobbs this year than anything, but kind of finding that new franchise quarterback. You got Caleb Williams coming potentially to play. So if he's willing to come play for you, I know he put out a short list of player teams that he would be interested in joining. I can't remember if Cardinals were on that list. I don't think they were, which is kind of crazy that I don't know if you saw that or not, but Caleb Williams can come out of the NFL
Uh-huh.
or can stay in college and not come to the NFL and make more money next year at USC than he could on a rookie contract.
Jesus Christ.
And that's the NIL portion of it. Is crazy to see, crazy to think about that he could you know make more money by not going professional. And it used to always be, oh, go professional, go professional, go professional. Now it's like, I might stay an extra year because I can make more money. So, but again, I think
Yeah.
Cardinals are kind of in a rebuild too. They traded away a lot of their pieces. Got some older pieces for cheaper. They had Zach Ertz that they traded for with the Eagles last year. Who else wants it? They got James Conner. I think they're kind of in a rebuild mode. I think they'll try and move Kyler Murray, but I just don't know if there's going to be any team that's willing to take him. But I think they need to kind of move on from him, get a new quarterback, just kind of freshen things up with this new coach, and just kind of let the things kind of play out and give him that new coach a few years to kind of get his guys, get his players that he needs in.
Okay. Okay.
Kind of,
Okay.
what's your thoughts? What do you think they need to do? Some of the bottom teams.
I think you hit the nail right on the head, Vishio. So I don't think there's much else. A lot of these guys made these big trades to, I guess, start up their, rebuild stage. I think the Giants, need to trade Saquon Barkley because he deserves a Super Bowl. He deserves more than what he is getting on the Giants. And the poor guy's been there for since he came in the NFL. And yeah, he doesn't deserve to be there. I think getting Saquon Barkley on a separate team with a better offensive line would be great, and they could start their rebuild process. Because if you trade Saquon Barkley, you could get a pretty penny for him. You know, could get some players, and each of these teams know exactly what their weaknesses are. There's no way you're in the NFL and you don't know what you're lacking. So I think these teams need to really prioritize hitting their weak points as hard as they possibly can, to strengthen those up. And yeah, some of these trades that these people make, I'm just lost at it, and I never understand why they'll trade like a star player for a fourth round draft pick and a sixth round draft pick. I don't get it. I'm sure I know that I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe it's to free up some cap room. I'm not really sure, but if I had, let's say, a player like Saquon Barkley and I was the Giants, I wouldn't be trading him for no damn fourth round draft pick or a fifth round or sixth round. I wouldn't be trading him for nothing less than maybe a first and a second round draft pick in the most, how do you say, like a most recent draft coming up.
Yeah, and
Uh,
the hard part with that is just a lot of these teams, it's sometimes they take what they can get because at the end of the day, that player might walk, and so they want to try and get at least something out of it. And that's the hard part is a lot of these players, it's not that, they're not getting the value. Also, too, I feel like the value of some of these players is not as much as it is like, Saquon is a good player, but I don't think his value is as high as that. Because then you got to factor the salary cap, his salary. You got to factor a lot of stuff in too that that you're taking on from taking him. And sometimes those teams are not as much trying to get the first or second round. They're just trying to take that cap off their cap so it can go to another team, so they're not having to pay that contract.
oh, okay. I mean, I think it's, yeah, just a matter of opinion. In my opinion, I believe Saquon Barkley is a great halfback. Obviously, he hasn't been fully able to utilize his skill set or even kind of become that star player that we all know him to be. Especially on the Giants. But yeah, I personally think you hit that right on the head there, Vicioso.
You know, we kind of talked about who we like are kind of surprised. Now let's kind of flip it. We'll start NFC, but who's the the one team that you're kind of surprised by, Murph, that isn't doing very well?
Hmm. I mean, 3-3 isn't a bad record, but in my opinion, with the weapons that the Saints have at their disposal, I think that they should be at a much higher spot. Um, so if I look at the bottom, it's just really the Cardinals, Panthers, Bears, and the Giants. And in my personal opinion, I think those guys were gonna be bad. Like you said a couple seconds ago, they're in the rebuild stage. They're not gonna really be putting out anything crazy, like the Lions. I think Saints being 3-3, I think they should at least be 4-2. Again, like I said, with their head coaching staff and with the weapons that they have in their offense and their defense, they're kind of coming along, man. They're coming along very well. Um, Sorry, I had some cereal. They have the solid cornerback, a solid defensive leader in Marshawn Lattimore, and I believe their middle linebacker is Demario Davis, if I'm not wrong. I think it is still, and he's a veteran. I think he's only going to play for maybe 3 more years, maybe 2 more years. I think. Yeah, their defense is set up straight, and you know me, Vicio. So I'm a very defensive based guy, even in Madden. And forgive me for all of the diehard NFL fans that I correlate a lot of this stuff to Madden, but the offense is good. What's his name? Derek Carr has been pretty consistent on the Saints too. You'll see it whenever you're watching a different game. They'll show you the stats of each player down below, and I always look out for Derek Carr's stats, and he's been pretty consistent. I'm pretty actually surprised by him. But I think the team that surprised me, especially in the NFC, is the Saints. I would like to see them at 4-2, and I would have thought they would be 4-2. What about you, Bishop Solstice?
There's two teams. I'm kind of honestly surprised by the Vikings and Giants. I feel
Yeah.
like the Giants kind of got a little lucky last year, but for how they were, being a playoff team and stuff like that, I'm surprised how bad they are this year. Like, it hasn't even really been close. Like, usually, like I said, last year they were a playoff team. They were decent, and now it's like, what is going on? As well as the Vikings, you got, I know Justin Jefferson is now out, but you got weapons like him. You got some decent weapons too. But just surprised, two teams that made the playoffs and are struggling the start of this year. It's crazy to see, crazy to think about. So interested to see if those, I think the Giants are going to stay down there. I still think the Vikings can come up, but how the NFC North is and with the Lions, I think it's going to be hard for them to come back. So, but now we're going to flip it. Now we're going AFC. What is kind of who is you that one surprise? The bottom team that you're kind of surprised by, in the AFC.
I want to say the Titans, man. I think we made our predictions a while ago when we shot that episode. Talking about recent trades and stuff, and I thought, you know, uh, man, I'm blanking on his name.
DeAndre
DeAndre
Hopkins.
Hopkins. Yeah, I thought he was going to be able to make a bigger impact, but he's really just become that guy for the quarterback to just throw to on like third down to either move the chains up or just get a secure catch, kind of like a Larry Fitzgerald towards the end of his career. Um, I was expecting to see some more out of him, and with a star running back like Derrick Henry, I don't know how they're 2-4. Think maybe they're not because I don't get Titans games and I don't really watch Titans games. I'm not gonna lie to you honestly, and I haven't looked up Derrick Henry's stats this season at all, but. Maybe they're that low because they're not utilizing their star players correctly, or maybe their defense isn't up to par where it should be. So I think that team surprises me a little bit out of everybody else on here, and maybe even the Chargers. Justin Herbskis is a really good quarterback, and he's made some decent plays this season. So I'm not really sure how they're 2-2. Should be at least 3-1 in my opinion. What about you, Vicioso?
There's two teams. First off, the Bengals. I know 3-3. That's still a pretty good record, but kind of surprised by that. Them being, AFC Championship games last few years. Going to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I thought
Mm-hmm.
definitely they'd be a lot better. I know Joe Burrow's kind of had a rough start.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of make fun of him. I know he's been battling calf thing, but it seems like last week they did a lot better. So, it's kind of a surprise. They just gave Burrow that max contract over the summer. But, I'll be interested to see if they can turn around. The other one, as much as, I hate to say this, the Patriots, it's crazy to see them struggling so bad. I think I talked about in our initial one. I thought the AFC East was going to kind of, be one league where they might have all four teams or, three of the four teams, but I thought it was going to be a close battle. And, things have kind of shaked up in that division a little bit different than teams were expecting. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers going down for the Jets in the first drive of the year. That kind of threw things off to a loop, the Bills kind of had a slow start. Chiefs are still 5-1, but they feel like they don't seem as dominant as they normally do. I know they're still kind of building up stuff, but I'm surprised by the Patriots being 1-4. In the last almost 2 decades, you could guarantee the Patriots were going to be one of the top teams in the AFC every year. And now, you're seeing the Patriots at 1-4, almost one of the worst teams in the AFC, and it's just crazy to see, crazy to think about. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see what you mean by the Patriots, but honestly, I think when we say that a quarterback makes a franchise, I think with the Patriots it was only Gronk and Tom Brady. Not in the last 2 decades because once Tom Brady and Gronk left, I think the Patriots kind of went downhill from there. They might have gone positive or even broke even. Even maybe have made it to a playoff game in that much time, but I personally don't think that they were gonna do good. Isn't Bill Belichick still their head coach?
Yes.
Yeah, Bill Belichick is. I think he's more of a man who likes consistency, and I think he found that in Tom Brady. And it's going to be hard to find that in another quarterback. So I think Bill Belichick is having some trouble. I think, and if your head coach is kind of having some issues, I feel like it causes issues throughout the entire franchise. Um, so yeah, that one that was just basically saying that one kind of didn't surprise me as much as the Titans did. That's my opinion personally. That's just my opinion.
Okay. We kind of talked, the teams, but kind of let's shift it a little bit to the players. Kind of who's some, we don't need to do AFC, NFC, but who's some players that you're kind of surprised by are doing really good? Who's some players that you're kind of surprised by that are not doing the greatest? Kind of what. Well, let's start, with the good players. Who's some of those players that you think you're like, wow, they're going off. They're playing really good football.
I think so. I'll try to go like positionally. I think a person that quarterback wise that surprised me on offense is Derek Carr, going from the Raiders, I believe, previously to now the Saints. Two different organizations, two different play styles completely. And the way that he's even been able to just keep him at a 3-3 record, I think that's pretty impressive in my opinion. Usually, players have a hard time, at least within the first year, adjusting to that, but still being able to go positive is pretty impressive to me. Halfback wise, I think Brian Robinson has been doing an amazing job. And isn't he a rookie?
Yes.
Yeah, coming into the NFL and absolutely dominating like he's been doing has been so much fun to just watch the highlights and catch some of those like clips on TikTok. So, and I call him Baby Michael Turner because that man can he'll hit a juke move like he's Ladanian, and then he'll truck somebody like he's Steven Jackson. So it's actually very, very entertaining to watch that man run the ball. And then the Lions wide receiver Amari St. Brown has been putting up numbers for the Lions and always being a consistent target for Jared Goff. So for me, those three right there are the three players for me on offense that have been very surprising to me that, they've kind of been going crazy. They've been performing very well for their team, if not putting up points, getting a lot of that yardage for their team to either get into field goal range or set up a touchdown or whatever the case may be. But those guys are really doing the damn thing for their team, and they are really holding it down for people in their position. What about you, Vishaposasosis?
Kind of breaking down like you kind of did quarterback position. There's a couple that come in mind. C.J. Stroud. I know he's a rookie. You expected him to kind of have good, but he's top 4 right now in the league in passing yards. And the Texans are kind of in a rebuild, new coach, new quarterback, and stuff like that. So it's kind of impressive to see him being able to put up those type of numbers. Another one that's kind of a newer quarterback, Sam Howell. He's led the Commanders to a 3-3 record. Which you're not kind of really were expecting. So kind of surprised by those two. From a running back, like you said, Robinson's been doing good, but honestly, I'm kind of surprised with Zach Moss and of Colts good. And Archane of the Dolphins. You thought Mostert was going to kind of be the feature back with the Dolphins. He's been going off. I know he had one really, really good game, but he's been having some good ones as well as Zach Moss. I know Jonathan Taylor was out, but he pretty much helped lead the problems when he was out. So kind of interesting to watch him, and then with the rushing, McCaffrey, he's leading the league right now, but you can't say you're surprised by that. Christian McCaffrey is one of the top running backs and will be one of the top running backs, I feel like. And then from a receiver standpoint, I'm going to have to go with Puka, the Rams receiver. Like, he's just, came out of nowhere being one of the top receivers. No one was really expecting him to be what he has been. I know Cooper Kupp was hurt, but like he's just a name that no one really knew about, and now he's a name everyone knows about. I feel like there's always a receiver or running back, a quarterback that people aren't really sure about, and then all of a sudden like they just break out, come out of nowhere, and I think he's like that. I feel like he's exactly what Cooper Kupp was initially when Cooper Kupp came. Not a lot of people knew about Cooper Kupp, knew much about him. And he's been a dominant receiver, and I think Puka is kind of the same way.
Okay, Puka's a great pick, man.
Now, if we kind of flip it around, who are some of those players that you are surprised that they're not doing as well? What are some of those ones you're like, like I thought this person would be doing a lot better than they are?
I'd say, I kind of had high hopes for Mac Jones. I think he's got so many different vices to him, man. I think he was gonna do good. I don't know. It just kind of made me upset. And then Geno Smith is another one for me because Geno Smith went off. I believe it was last year or something, and he had such a consistent year. But now he's like, I think. Let me see how much this says he has. He has only 1,169 passing yards, and Tua's leading the league with 1,876 right now. So I'm like, damn. These two guys, like my two sleeper picks that I like to watch or like keep track of, they're not doing too hot. I'm just kind of concerned. So for me, quarterback position, those two. What is wrong with this thing? And then for receivers, if it'll let me go there. Oh, halfbacks actually. Let's check that out next. I think what's Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook has kind of been quiet recently. He's on the Jets now, right?
Yes.
Watching Dalvin Cook play today was kind of not necessarily disappointing, but it was kind of sad because you watch, all these previous years of Dalvin Cook being an amazing running back for the Vikings and doing all the things that he does. But then he goes over here and he's not really putting up many numbers. He's not really doing good. And I'm on page 2, the player stats, and he's not even up here. And another one for the halfback position is Ezekiel Elliott. I believe who does he play for? Another Cardinals, right?
No, he plays for the Patriots.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we already talked about the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots is a good pick for him. I don't think it's a good setting for him. I'm not really sure what's going on with Ezekiel Elliott, but that's another halfback that I was expecting that wherever he went, he was going to be able to put up some pretty consistent numbers and, do what he usually does and just be that force that he is known to be. But he really isn't this season, so that kind of is disappointing to me. And then as for receivers, like I said earlier, D-Hop hasn't really been doing much in my opinion. Haven't really been hearing too much about him. So I thought D-Hop was going to make way more noise and be much better than what he actually is doing now. But it seems like he's not really doing much, man. And I think my second one for receiver has got to be Mike Will off of the Chargers. He's been a dominant receiver for the Chargers. He's been doing a lot of numbers for them, and he's been a really consistent target. But this year, he's not really doing much. I'm on like page 3 or 4, and he's only got 20 receptions so far. No, sorry, 19. And I feel like that's a pretty like constant number, but if for a player like Mike Will, I feel like he should have at least like 25, 30. Maybe he's just having an off year this year, or maybe he's hurt or something. I'm not sure, man. But for me, those are the couple players that I think are surprising that they're doing bad. What about you, Viciatosis Wosis?
If I, go from a quarterback standpoint, I said it a little bit earlier, but Joe Burrow, I know he's been fighting some stuff, but I'm surprised he's kind of been what he's been. He's not having a terrible year, but definitely not normal Joe Burrow that we've seen. Honestly, I would say the same with Jalen Hurts. Last year he only had 2 picks. This year, I think he's at 5 now, something like that.
Mm.
I mean, yes, he's still doing the I think just the Eagles as a whole, their offense hasn't been as great. I feel like the offense came back with the same, but on the defensive side, definitely not the defense it was last year. I think that's kind of led to some of the Eagles' struggles. I know they've only lost 1 game, but I think that's kind of been like the whole thing, been kind of, the Eagles lost a lot of defensive help. Not really, like I said, offense, they lost Miles Sanders, but they got DeAndre Swift. They got, what's his name from the Seahawks? I'm blanking. He hasn't played really at all, but so I think that he's kind of like my surprise. I was kind of expecting a little bit more out of him. From
Mhm.
a running back position, you know, it's hard to say. I know the running backs. We expect something things, but I feel like the running back position is being so all over the place, so different than it used to be. If I had to go with anyone, I think it'd probably be Dalvin Cook, like you said. I'm surprised he's not doing as well. I thought, with the Jets offense and stuff like that, I don't feel like, I thought the Vikings released him just to release him, and I was surprised, he went to the Jets. But again, he just hasn't really been getting a lot of touches. I feel like Brees Hall also hasn't really been getting a lot of touches either. But kind of a weird, one. And then Austin Eckler, has usually been the Chargers' main back and hasn't been playing as great this year, So those are kind of a couple of the running back positions. Receiver, I feel like Justin Jefferson's still having a good year. It's not the greatest, but kind of surprised how kind of slow of a start he has been. I mean, I'm kind of surprised by the Broncos receivers just in as a whole. I know that I didn't think the Broncos were going to completely turn around, but I thought Sean Payton would be able to turn around some of that stuff. At least get the offense going, which it doesn't seem. So, kind of a little surprised by Cortland Sutton and a couple of those guys just not really having the greatest years. You know, that would probably be mine from a standpoint of like kind of offense, defensive, offensive players. And like I said, Eagles defense kind of been one that I'm like still good, but it's not anything where it was last year. The Niners defense is just impressive and has been playing pretty well. Um, but yeah, now we've made our predictions. Before the season has started. But Murph, kind of who do you think is going to be the AFC Championship for the NFC Championship game? What do you think those are going to be?
Uh, you know, I'll say, obviously my biased answer for the AFC. Obviously I want to see the Ravens be in there. Um, and I think without my bias, I think potentially they could still be in there, but having to battle against the Chiefs and the way the Dolphins are going right now, you know, you always have to keep that in the back of your head that the Chiefs are so dominant that maybe right now they're not looking too good, but they're still 5-1. And then the Dolphins are really going crazy. I mean, putting up 70 points in a game is ridiculous. And I know after they did that, I think they lost their next game, but I think they won. I'm not sure, but it would be cool to see the Dolphins in there because I know they haven't been in there for a very long time. Kind of going back on what I said about seeing these sleeper teams make it. So I think AFC is kind of, for me, it's stuck in between those three. What about you, Viciatosis?
AFC. I think it's Chiefs Dolphins. I I think I said Chiefs Bengals initially is I think what I said when we had filmed that episode. Right now I think it's Chiefs Dolphins. Dolphins offense is just looking insane. They could put up Chiefs offense is like that too. You never can never count them out. I I feel like Chiefs have the better defense slightly, but at the end of the day, though, I think that's going to kind of be the matchup. I still think, though, with the experience and what, Andy Reid as the coach and the experience and stuff like that, I think that's going to go a lot longer than the Dolphins with their speed and everything like that. So, again, I think I can see that. But I probably see the Chiefs still coming out. They haven't been as dominant, but but yeah, so flipping it now to the NFC, who do you think is going to be in the NFC Championship game?
Hmm. This is kind of difficult because you have to put the Eagles in there, 5-1. You got to put the Niners in there. I think it'll be surprising if we're able to see the Lions in there, and I would love to see the Lions in there because again, back to my point of watching a sleeper team. I think it's fun that one year the Jags went to the playoffs. That was such a out of nowhere thing that happened, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I think with the Eagles, they're a pretty solid foundation. They've got a great structure going. Their coaching staff, their players are comfortable with one another. That Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, what's his name, Smith. I forget his first name.
Devontae.
Devontae Smith. Yeah, Jalen Hurts makes great usage of the his receiving core. What's his name, Geo Dirt or Goddard?
Yep, Goddard.
I think he does a very good job of orchestrating his offense and being able to find the opening. So I think they're doing good in there. The Eagles' defense has always been a force to be reckoned with. Even since the Brian Dawkins days, Dante Samuel. You know, and I think they've always kept that theme alive, even after all these years. So I think, you know, it's for me, it's going to be a tie between the Eagles and the Niners. And I guess you could say, in a lack of terms, the Lions is my fantasy pick.
Okay.
What about you, Bishop? What's the show?
You know, I think it's going to be Eagles Niners. As much as this hurts me to say, I think it's going to be the Niners representing the NFC. I feel like the Eagles have been playing really good, but again, I think Niners defensively is what's going to get them. The Eagles defense isn't what it was last year, and I think that's going to be kind of the struggle. I think the offense can go, but can the defense hold? They got some good. I don't feel like. I mean, Purdy's been doing good. I don't think he's like anything like the greatest of all time quarterback or any of those conversations. He's been doing good enough, but with that defense you have, he can kind of have a little up pressure. Plus, as well as the weapons you have, you got McCaffrey, you just got speed at the receiver position. You got George Kittle at the tight end. As much as I hate to say it, I think the Niners are going to be the one that comes out of the NFC. But Murph, based off of kind of everything, who are you picking as your Super Bowl champ? We're pretty much through week 6. Who are you picking?
Okay, so I'll give you my biased answer, because I have to. And then I'll give you my realistic answer. Obviously, the Ravens. We'll see how realistic that pick is kind of closer towards the midseason and seeing how they go and praying that we don't get any more injuries because just literally last week, we got all of our basically 90% of our starters back from injury. So I would love to see the Ravens, and I still think they can make it happen. 4-2 is a great start. I think if as it goes, you win a couple, maybe lose one, win a couple, lose one by the end of the season, you're like, at least you've only got 5 to maybe even 6 losses on your record. I think they could do it still. They're a great franchise. Beautiful. And then, you got to go. You have to put the Chiefs or the Eagles in that conversation because those two teams have been just so dominant in the NFL last couple of years. So I think those two, plus my Ravens, not going to brag or anything, but we won our game today. So unlike the Eagles. So yeah, I think those are my picks, man. You have to put those guys in there.
Yeah.
What if?
As much as you want to talk crap, hey, how's out Nelson Aguilar going for you?
All right, listen.
Yep.
We took him out of the game. All right, he didn't even play today. Thank God.
Uh,
Send his ass back to free agency, man. I hate seeing that guy's name.
oh, I knew I could. Once you went after my Eagles, I knew the one thing I had to say.
You guys gave us you cursed him and then gave him to us. I knew it.
Well, we gave him the Patriots, and the Patriots didn't want him, so you should have figured at that point in time if the Patriots didn't want him, you guys shouldn't have took him. But that's not for me to say.
God dang it, you brought up that fucking guy. Nelson Aguilar. Oh my God.
But
I feel the rage.
my team that I think it's going to be the Niners. I think, unfortunately, I feel like AFC, Chiefs have been playing okay. They're not playing this great. I think it's going to be Eagles, Niners, whatever win that one's going to win the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, I think with how the Eagles defense is, unless they start kind of turning things out, figuring things out, I think it's going to be the Niners. I know they both lost today, but the Niners have, in aspects looked a lot more dominant than the Eagles. Definitely in the defensive side. Offensive side, I still think the Eagles are better, but they always say defense wins championships. So unless the Eagles defense can kind of figure stuff out, I think Niners are going to be the kind of the Super Bowl champs.
Okay.
So
Okay.
looks like we're kind of getting to the end of our episode. Anybody in chat, if you have any questions for us, let us know. While we're waiting, Murph, it's that time. What is your question of the day today?
Okay, so this one is completely off topic, but I was thinking about this earlier today when I went to get coffee today. So I was like, what's a weird combination for an ice cream flavor that you would still try?
A weird combination for an ice cream.
For me, my ice cream flavor that I would still try would be like crispy fried chicken and French fries. They somehow managed to turn that into ice cream. I'd probably buy that flavor and still try it.
Me being my pickiness and stuff like that, I'm not gonna go anything super crazy.
It's a stumper.
Yeah, it is. If I had more time, the first thing I don't know kind of does pop in my head is like apple. You never see any like apple ice cream?
I think they have apple pie flavored ice cream.
They probably do. Okay, actually, I don't know. They might already have it, but it'd be interesting. A Mountain Dew flavored ice cream.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Be interesting to try that. I'd be interested to try that. So.
Okay. Baja Blast.
Oh, not Baja, just regular. I'm not a big Baja Blast guy.
Yeah, I forgot.
So. But that looks like we don't have any questions. Looks like we're gonna wrap up this episode. Star Wars Frog and Vegito, appreciate you guys tuning in, as well as anyone that might be here watching us live, but not saying anything. We appreciate all of you tuning in, as well as anybody that's watching this on YouTube. We hope you guys are enjoying this content. Like we always say, if you have any ideas for future episodes, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on, Twitter. We'll love to hear from you guys on some of that. And, make sure you check out the merch store. Get some sweet Murph and Bish podcast merch. Streamlabs.com/merch/Murph and Bish. If you want to rock some cool gear. But besides that, we appreciate all of you as always, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Peace.